wait a minute, how do we get the blessings?
Okay.
Because you're alive, but now you're dispersed. And you can't do the things that you're supposed to be doing. You can't do the sacrifices and offerings at the temple. Can't cover sins. So now the question is, hey, we're out here sometimes in persecution, and they're not receiving the promises. So if you don't receive the promises while you're alive, you have to develop a new theology that says it's not while we're alive, it must be after.
Welcome to What's Up With That, a podcast too. The podcast where we explore the intriguing intersections of theology, politics, religion, and just what's going on in the church. From deep theological discussions to the latest political debates, we dive into a variety of topics that spark curiosity and challenge conventional thinking. Whether you're a seasoned believer or just got curious, our conversations aim to inspire reflection and provoke thought. Join us as we seek to understand the complexities of faith in today's world and ask, what's up with that? Our guest for this evening is none other than Dr. Rodney Caruthers II, Assistant Professor of New Testament at Austin Presbyterian Seminary right here in Austin, Texas. So let's get started. How you doing, Rodney?
I'm doing quite well. How about you, sir?
Doing good, doing good. So glad to have you back with us, man.
This is great to be back.
Hey, it's been a while.
Yeah?
It's been a while. Yeah. So how have you been doing? You got some great things going on, right?
Yeah, it's been a really good, busy but good semester, and been lecturing and teaching, and it's been a great time. Okay,
and I might be blowing your cover, but you also got a book in the making about to happen too, huh?
Yes. Ancient writing practices, how Jewish authors learn to write Greek narrative. So hopefully this will be coming out in the maybe another year or so.
Awesome. Look forward to it. That gives us another reason. Well, actually, that's not the only reason, because actually with your knowledge, expertise, we can get you back.
Absolutely.
As our resident theologian.
Listen, when that's ready, I would love to come back and talk some more on that.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. We will absolutely and definitely, I'm not going to extend an invitation, get you back.
Thank you. Yeah. And I would gladly accept.
All right, Doc. All right. Glad you're here and on tonight. We've sort of chatted previously about an area that is your passion, and that is also more of your concentration that you really enjoy doing. And that's the Second Temple period, or as many call it, the 400 years.
Sometimes inappropriately the silent years, and is anything but that. So yes.
Okay. That was going to be questioned after the first one, right?
Okay.
And also simply to say it's intriguing conversation as you look at the study of it.
That's right.
And just been, I guess I've always this seminary been familiar with it, been aware of it, but probably from where I sit, skimming the surface.
Okay.
Right. Took a little bit more time, and even teaching it, right? Comparative world religion. But it's still, I think, skimming the surface. Yeah. And so good to have you here and understanding it's foundational for really understanding New Testament and really understanding the world that Jesus was born into, right?
That's right.
Some would say to know that is to better understand Jesus' mission, his message, and the early Christian movement there. With all that said, what do people mean when they talk about the 400 years of silence?
No, great one. And again, it's a popular thing. Usually we see that in descriptions in some of these study Bibles where we'll call it, instead of just the 400 years of silence, the intertestamental period.
Okay.
So sometimes we see that and people will say, this must have been a time where God wasn't speaking. So a lot of development, and we're going from the Hebrew Bible into the New Testament. But anyone who does the Second Temple period would note that, Don, not only do we have more writings that are produced during that period than both the Hebrew Bible and New Testament combined, we have a tremendous amount of development of not only history, theology, different types of literary genres. So the period is, again, anything but silent.
So,
I mean, it's highly productive.
Okay, so that 400 silent years is a misnomer.
Absolutely.
Or an oversimplification.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, it sounds like more of a misnomer. It's not oversimplified.
No.
It's just not even close to what would be accurate.
No, absolutely.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Share with us. There are many who've not taken the time. Well, that's just not taught, right? If you are churched, that's just not something we talk about in church. We don't deal with. We might passively mention there was 400 years of silence, but God, and then God through Jesus the Christ, right? So we don't really talk about.
Right.
And I guess I'm going to use the more appropriate term, right? It's the Second Temple period.
So here, let me chime in real quick. So Second Temple period is what we typically call it in scholarship today.
Okay.
It was called the intertestamental period. It was called the silent years. Some would call it Middle Judaism. So it's got a number of different ways that it's referred to. But yes, for now, we would typically say the Second Temple period. Okay.
Does that mean that whatever I call it within that realm is okay?
Yes. For our discussion, yes, because we know what we're talking about. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Just for background, for so many who may not be familiar with it, know that it exists. Many will have heard, and going to ask you more about that a little bit later. Many may have heard the Apocrypha or the quote unquote lost writings, right? Can you share with us just some of that history, some major points, maybe looking at Persia, at Greece, Rome, and how maybe that impacted what was going on?
Yeah, no, this is a major one for this period. So when people talk about the Apocrypha, they talk about the term itself, something like hidden. So apocryphal or Apocrypha, something like hidden writings. But of course, they're not hidden because we have them.
Right.
So a number of these texts show up in something called the Septuagint. So the Septuagint are, for the most part, your writings from the Hebrew Bible, now written in Greek, translated into Greek.
Okay.
And then we have additional writings like First Maccabees, Second Maccabees, Third Maccabees, Fourth Maccabees. We've got a whole host of other writings written in Greek that are a part of that Septuagint collection. I won't go into the different types of Septuagints. It's like 3 or 4 different types, but for the most part, this is a Greek translation with additional writings that are typically expanding on traditions that we have in the Hebrew Bible. So this is showing up, the way that we get it is from a pseudepigraphal writing called the Letter of Aristeas.
Okay.
So that Letter of Aristeas is found, written probably around maybe the 2nd century or so BCE. And it tells the legend of how the Septuagint was translated from the Hebrew scrolls into Greek.
Okay.
So that's the history of it. And then we end up seeing these writings being used later on.
Okay. So God was anything but silent.
Yes.
And there were a plethora of writings, lots of writings.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay. So what was going on historically with the people that maybe generated the writings? I mean, what was going on culturally?
Yeah, culturally, you're seeing a lot of mixing. So, of course, you're moving from the Jews that were exiled from Judea into Babylon, into Persia, and then right after Persia, they have the Macedonian Empire. So now with Macedon, you're getting this Hellenistic Greek culture.
You want to say Hellenistic? Can you help us?
Yes, absolutely. Hellenistic Greek culture.
Okay.
Yes. So Greek culture now being mixed with Hebrew culture.
Okay.
So this is how we end up going from Hebrew writings and now getting writings written in Greek that are now adding Greek mythology, Greek terms, Greek philosophy. All these things are starting to coalesce within Jewish culture. So we get a lot of development both in the literary genres and in theology during that period.
Okay. So how did that begin to impact the Jewish culture? Because obviously it's beginning to change now, right? Because of the mixing.
Right.
It's no longer totally Jewish. You've got to marry your Jewish cousin or your half sister, but culture is beginning to change.
Yeah.
And we see that change, I guess, with migration, and as they find themselves in the various other empires, I don't know if that's usurping, but as that all of that begins to happen, how does that impact the culture?
Yeah, it impacts the culture in terms of their education. So what they're learning. So now let's take Hellenistic culture, Greek culture. Now they have the opportunity to go to Greek schools, learn how to write in Greek. They learn Greek morals and values. Again, they're bringing in some of the mythology and philosophy. So now when they're living, they're reading these things from the Hebrew Bible, but now we're getting expanded ideas that are connecting with the Greek culture. So for example, Philo of Alexandria is a major figure for this period. And he's using the Hebrew Bible traditions, things that he knows from the Hebrew Bible. He probably doesn't know Hebrew. But now he's reading and interpreting those writings using Greek philosophy to explain the creation, to explain how Moses learned, and all sorts of things. So we get this infusion of Greek thought into what was Jewish tradition.
Okay, so then as you get this infusion, that means that they're beginning to have thoughts and ideas and questions.
Oh, yeah.
So culturally, now you had a Jewish community. So the community, while it's still Jewish, we often read about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So are they bad people, or were these just different schools of thought, different sects? Because at one point you didn't have that culturally, right? Jews were all same beliefs, same practice, but now you're seeing the development of sects, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I might be wrong, but you have different denominations who are now developing.
Yes, yeah. So this is a similar idea. So yes, going back to ancient Israelite religion. So we go back to the Hebrew Bible. So now during this period, now we don't have the origins for all of this, but by the time we get to, maybe the 2nd century BCE, we start to see other names of Jewish sects showing up. Hasidim, Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes. So yes, we start to see these different groups with different beliefs, different ideas that are emerging from this period. And, some of it is Greek culture. Other things are probably from their time in Babylon and Persia, but we get this expansion of different ideas. So by the time we get to Jesus of Nazareth, we've got a whole plethora of different views. So we wouldn't say the Jews anymore. We would say what type of Jew, because we've got multiple forms. Okay.
So I guess how did these groups begin to shape the world that Jesus was born in? Right? There was not just one thought process now. Right. So how did that begin to shape the world that Jesus was born into with these many groups?
Yeah, so by the time Jesus comes on the scene, we've got multiple sects of Judaism now. So with him coming, the question is, well, what type of Jew was he? So he's in this social milieu where we have these Pharisees, at least in the New Testament, we have Pharisees, Sadducees mentioned, Zealots mentioned, Sicarii are mentioned. Okay. So there's already all of this diversity of different beliefs. Sadducees don't believe in an afterlife or angels, that sort of thing. Jesus' understanding seems to align closer with the Pharisees and possibly the Essenes.
Really?
I mean, we even have a passage where Jesus is saying something like, listen to the Pharisees. They're teaching you the right thing. Just don't do what they do. So, this could be a show of, they have this belief in the afterlife, belief in judgment, belief in spirits and angels and this sort of thing, which is very close to the understanding of Christianity. Of course, we would jump to Paul, who's a Pharisee. So his understanding is close to this as well.
So then one of the major concerns with the Pharisees was not so much the ideology, it was their hypocrisy.
At least according to the New Testament. If we read Josephus, who's a major character for the Second Temple period, our knowledge of the history of the period, Josephus is going to say that the Pharisees were the party of the people.
Meaning?
They were the group that was the most popular. How far can we accept what he's saying? Because Josephus is a Pharisee himself. Okay. So, but according to his report, the Pharisees were the most popular.
Okay, so you had an impact now from a lot of foreign governments, agencies, Greek, Roman.
We're going from Macedon to the Macedonian Empire to the Greek Empire and then the Roman Empire.
So how were the Jews able to maintain their faith and their identity in the midst of all these foreign powers, in the midst of the influences?
Again, this kind of goes back to different Jewish groups have different approaches. So if we think about the Maccabees, they initially want to maintain as close as they can be to their Jewish heritage. Then you have other groups like Hellenistic Jews who are more comfortable with incorporating Greek culture and philosophy into their practices. So depending on the Jewish group, some are a little bit more comfortable, others may not be. So it's not like a one size fits all. It just depends on the group.
Okay. In fact, it was so much so that there was the Maccabees, the revolt of the Maccabees.
Maccabean revolt, yeah.
Can you sort of talk about that a little bit? Because that was friction, right? Even
initially.
Okay.
Yeah. So initially, the whole idea is with the Maccabees, there is this issue of Antiochus Epiphanes, who is the ruler of the Ptolemies.
Okay.
And he wants to come in and desecrate the temple of Jerusalem. So of course, he's implementing an edict and these sorts of things. And that particular group, the Maccabees, are saying, no, we have to resist this.
Okay.
So they're the ones that are going to fight against it and say, no, we want to hold to the Torah, to our Jewish tradition. Okay, so that's the fight, if you will, between those two. Later on, they develop more of a working relationship with the Hellenistic Empire after that time. So that's what I mean. It starts off as an antagonistic thing, but later on, it's a little bit closer.
Okay, so that has something to do, I guess you had some from the Jewish community who embraced the whole Greek.
Yeah, even in First and Second Maccabees, you have a faction of Jews that are saying, led by the high priest Jason, who's saying, hey, we want to be in league with Antiochus. And Antiochus ends up building them a gymnasium, and it talks about how a number of Jews attend the gymnasium, participate in the sports, and put away their Torah practices. And it's described as them being Hellenized, made into Greeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those who resisted, I guess that's what led to the revolt of the Maccabees.
Exactly, trying to retake Jerusalem, right? This is how we end up with Hanukkah, the rededication of the temple.
Okay. And you said those who resisted tried to retake the temple.
Exactly, they did. Yes, the Maccabees.
Okay.
Right.
So the group that resisted were the Maccabees.
Exactly.
Now, was that a particular group, or was that a name that was attached to them?
That was a family name.
Okay.
So yeah. So Judas Maccabeus is the one who ends up leading the revolt after his father is killed.
Okay. And I mean, that has to have a profound impact on the Jewish culture.
Oh, definitely.
Overall, and on the faith, right? But I guess what we're seeing is early in the game, faith is always challenged, and regards to who and where we are, we're not going to always see.
Yeah.
Even in our first experience and faith journey, the same way. And those were people who had ancestors at this point, right?
Exactly.
Who actually lived the Jewish experience,
Right.
And who would articulate what it would, could, or should be.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome. With these events, there was still the expectation of the coming of the Messiah.
Yes. Yeah.
In anticipation, right? With all of these factions beginning, factions, new denominations, whatever word you want to use, right? With all of this happening, with all of this happening, what was the expectation? I want to say of the Messiah. What did they expect the Messiah to be? Was it going to be this savior that we talked about? Is he military might and power? I mean, what was their expectation of the Christ?
Perfect question. This falls under usually the study called messianism. So just the development of the idea of a messianic kind of figure, some sort of intermediator, sometimes heavenly, sometimes thought of as a human type of character too. So the way that it develops, it starts with just the understanding of Messiah. Or Christ. Christ is just the Greek version. So the messianic character starts with, to some degree, we could say the Jewish king or the Israelite king. So somebody like Saul, David, who is anointed.
Some of the first kings that were.
So the king that's anointed, they're pouring oil on this figure to show that they're selected by the God of Israel. The Hebrew for this is Mashiach, which we could just say oily one. So one who's oily, somebody who's been selected. But their role is to serve as the leader of the community. So by the time we get to the Second Temple period, we've moved from that idea, and of course the covenant with David, which is, I promised, God of Israel promising that there will always be a king eternally on the throne. So that's really the idea. So that idea is going to continue to evolve because the whole point is they have their land, they have a king, and they also have the Torah that they're living by. 3 covenants.
Okay, and does that covenant initiate with Saul, or is it initiated more so?
The covenant for the Messiah with the king starts with David.
Starts with David.
Right.
Okay.
That they'll always have a king on the throne. That's a Davidic covenant.
Okay, that would be because when you mentioned king, of course Saul was the first king.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And Saul was the first king, anointed.
Right.
By Samuel.
Yeah.
So somewhere Saul is sort of cut out, and was that part of all his failure and his not doing what God required? That we skip Saul, and because David was the mighty one, that now he gets to be simply because of.
I mean, he's a man after God's own heart, and all these types of things. But of course, later on we see that the Messiah has to come from the line of David, and to your point, not from the line of Saul, from the line of David.
So then it also feeds into the prophetic.
Exactly.
Declarations.
So when we talk about what was the expectation, we start there with David, but we have to understand the context of those covenants. Okay. So them as a people, they have their land, Abrahamic covenant, plus they're supposed to be blessed.
And they're acquired the land. Once crossing over into the promised land, they begin to conquer and take over, and their land grab is a little bit too not know. And the extension of land grew massively. And that's
the 12 tribes.
The 12 tribes.
Yep. So that whole thing with the land, this is all the Abrahamic covenant. So they have their promised land, like you said. Then you get your king. You have the tabernacle.
Can I just ask a question though?
Yeah.
You said Meshua. Is that for Messiah as well? Because it wasn't the term
Mashiach. Mashiach?
Well, you're doing the correct term. I'm using the what I was, Messiah, the term Messiah.
Oh, yeah.
Do not refer to the king, son of God, because God chose the king. Samuel anointed the kings, but they were chosen by God, right? And that was the Messiah, the Son of God. Is that right association?
This is how we get to that idea. So the Messiah is an oily figure, a chosen figure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So they've got their land. Now they have their king, and we have to remember that God was living in the tabernacle, and then eventually the temple, and that area. Especially starting back with the tabernacle, the 12 tribes around the tabernacle with Yahweh in the center. That was the kingdom of God. This is the big thing with, how do we get to expectations? That was the actual kingdom of God on the earth, a copy of things in the heavens, if you will. So now they get the temple. That area is still God's kingdom. Now you bring in a human king. The human king serves at the behest of the God of Israel. So still God's kingdom with a human king now. As we go forward into the Second Temple period, all these things that we mentioned, them being exiled by the Babylonians, then taken over by the Persians, etc., etc. The issue, Don, is those covenants are broken. They're broken because the land is there, but it's no longer theirs. They're being ruled by foreign empires. So once you're ruled by foreign empires and you don't have a particular king anymore, they have governors appointed by foreign empires.
And that was because
that's the Davidic covenant.
As it went into the 12 tribes, as they went in, 12 tribes began to divide. So there was no king.
Well, once we get to David and Solomon, then the divided monarchy. First of all, the northern kingdom's defeated by the Assyrians. So they're taken off. Then the southern kingdom of Judah is defeated by the Babylonians. And that's where the Jerusalem temple is. So that area is now under foreign rule. So that breaks the Abrahamic covenant because the land's no longer yours. It breaks the Davidic covenant because now there's no king on the throne. So that's two covenants broken. They still want to try to carry out the Torah, but they can't do it all the way.
Carry out the
Torah, the law, the Mosaic covenant. So they can't really do that. So the big issue is this was a theological and religious catastrophe.
And they couldn't carry out the Torah because they were dispersed?
Exactly. They're dispersed. They're in different land. The temple has been...
Now that's it. So that, because it becomes tied to the temple, and now the temple is no longer existing.
It's not operational.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So you've got problems in the land. All of this is breaking up the covenants. So now you have a people dispersed, exiled in Babylon, later in Persia. And eventually Cyrus is going to let them come back. But the issue is, it starts an expectation that says, God, when will you restore the kingdom back to Israel?
Okay.
So restore things back to the golden days of David.
The good old
and
days. Good old days.
Exactly.
You want to go?
Exactly. So now from that point, you start to build a desire and a hope for some sort of figure to come and to restore things. First is Yahweh, though. In the Hebrew Bible, we have all of this discussion with the prophets, something called the Day of the Lord. And the Day of the Lord was supposed to be when Yahweh would come, overturn the Gentiles or the wicked, and restore the kingdom. Showing up first with Elijah. This is what we see with Malachi. Okay. Before the day of the Lord, I'll send you Elijah the prophet, etc. Okay, so they have this expectation. That's there, a restoration of the physical kingdom.
So how is that going to happen?
Exactly. So now, as they go forward into the Second Temple period, now they're starting to develop a number of characters around this day of the Lord. Sometimes we have a Messiah figure. The other figure that's developed is somebody called the Son of Man. And the Son of Man, we see this first in Daniel. Okay. So now we've got two. So
is that apocalyptic or is that prophetic?
Well, we could.
Coming down, Daniel is heavily apocalyptic, right?
Yeah.
In time.
But it's a vision of something in the future.
Okay.
So this figure, the Son of Man, is now supposed to do the judging that Yahweh was going to do. This is how we end up with Jesus as the Son of Man and judge later on in the New Testament.
Okay. And that's coming from an ideology, what they're expecting.
Exactly. So these are early expectations, judgment, restoration of the kingdom physically on the earth.
So these concepts then that we attribute to Jesus are concepts that are developed.
They're developing in that Second Temple period.
When they're, I guess all of that is part of figuring out how this is going to happen, what it's going to be like.
Exactly.
And some of that then transfers.
Exactly. So by the time, so we could take, for example, the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the rule of the community, we see them describing part of their expectation, because the whole point, again, Don, is different groups have different understandings. So it's not like one unified belief in how this is supposed to take place.
And that goes back to say when we want to say how black folk believe, or how we will quickly say we're not all monolithic.
Exactly. Okay. So with the Qumran scrolls, they seem to discuss a belief that there will be, at the end of the age, a Messiah of Aaron, that is a priestly Messiah, a Messiah of David, a royal Messiah, somebody called the prophet, and even somebody called the teacher of righteousness. If all of that's ringing a bell, it's because all of those figures get conflated into Jesus of Nazareth in the New Testament. So we can see how their belief is just one type of, hey, here's what we're thinking about at the end of the age with a banquet. Again, something that's also mentioned in the New Testament, where Jesus is saying things like, I won't eat of this fruit of the vine until we do it again when I come in my kingdom. This whole notion of a banquet. So yes, this expectation of some sort of figure that's going to fight on behalf of the Judeans and restore the kingdom. This is why we see in Acts his followers saying, will you finally restore the kingdom? This is part of their expectation. But it's coming from that understanding of things have been broken.
So is that a blending? I think I asked, would he be a military person? Would it be a savior? I guess Another one, would it be a political leader?
Yeah.
From what you're saying is that it became a mixture of all three.
It became a mixture, yes. And again, depending on who we're reading. So the notion of a militaristic type of figure to come and to fight, that seemed to be a pretty dominant one, though. And Jesus doesn't fit that one well, not initially. But the expectation is when he comes the first time, it's an offer of salvation. But the point is, well, the whole fighting and military piece, that'll be the second coming. So it does fit a little bit more on his second coming.
Okay, so I'm not one of my questions.
Okay.
It would come on the second coming, but in the first coming,
It's an offer of salvation. He's coming to offer peace and salvation.
So what does salvation mean in that regard?
Yeah, so basically, if you have not been on God's side, if you're not on Yahweh's side, because all of this is the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord is a day of wrath and judgment.
Okay.
So the day of the Lord's not just yet. So Jesus' first coming is supposed to be, hey, I'm giving you a shot before this day of the Lord. This is why he says, repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. John the Baptist is going to say the axe is at the root of the tree. Get yourself together. Here's the offer. Get it together, because once this offer's done, the next time he comes back, it's the day of the Lord.
Okay.
And that's when it's supposed to be the judgment. And
so then we've got a long time, is that right? Because within Jewish ideology,
yeah.
he hasn't made the first visit yet.
For some Jews, yes, the Messiah has not appeared yet. For some, right? With Jesus, the expectation initially was that he would be right back. So,
yeah, but that's part of, and maybe I don't know if we're jumping or not, but that's part of the reasons that the writings began, right? It was taking them a long time. Folk who knew the history, who had the experience, were starting to die.
That's right.
Being martyred, getting old, getting sick, whatever, getting sickly. And so we've got to write this down so that we have recorded history of a transcript of what's happened. So that's why those writings begin to play out. Okay, let's see if we can move to the New Testament at some point. The temple becomes paramount. Hence, I'm sure the Second Temple period.
Yeah.
So the temple becomes paramount. All of Jewish faith, tradition, religion, religiosity, centered around the temple. Can you just talk about that and the significance of the rebuilding of the temple?
Yeah, so the Second Temple, once they return, Cyrus the Great, Persian king, allows them to come back somewhere around 537 or so BCE. So they return back to Judea, and they're allowed to go back up and rebuild the temple under Nehemiah and Ezra.
Right.
So 515 or so BCE, the dates are always a little off, but they are allowed to rebuild the temple and reinstitute the sacrifices and these things. So that's the official Second Temple. So that really, when we say the Second Temple period, we mean 515 or so till it's destroyed again in 70 CE. So really that period, even though we talk about things a little bit before that.
So we're saying then that once it was destroyed in 70 CE.
Right. That's technically the end of the Second Temple.
Okay, and we don't see the significance temple worship as in the same light.
Not after 70.
Okay.
No, not with the destroyed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the place of the temple during, let's say, before the time of Jesus, during his time, it is still the central place for worship, religion, festivals, and things. All of that is right there in Jerusalem. We are aware of a temple in Leontopolis in Egypt. Of course, the Samaritan temple. There was a temple in Elephantine, but it was destroyed sometime before this. So we know that there were other temples in existence. But this one definitely held its significance.
Okay, and so that would also say that once the temple was rebuilt in Jerusalem, because the people had dispersed, it was okay then to have temples in other places that would be more conducive for those who could not travel.
Apparently, yeah. We have traditions with Josephus where he's explaining like how the temple in the Samaritan temple was built, and allowing a rogue priest to go and do it, and this sort of thing. So we have some traditions around it, but the one at Elephantine, that one seems to be, we don't have a lot for why that one was built and why it was allowed, but it would seem that it's related to the diaspora.
Okay. So all this stuff is going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a whole lot.
It's a lot of different sects being developed.
Right.
Not because there were folk who didn't believe in the teachings. Right? It's just there was a period of theophany. There were the prophets, and God wasn't speaking. The prophets wasn't speaking through God. It's so how do we maintain? How do we?
But interestingly, in those writings of the Second Temple period, God is still speaking through prophets.
Okay.
So,
but they didn't necessarily see that themselves. Is that right?
Well, for that history, it would be a continuation of the history from the Hebrew Bible. So you would still have prophets, and God is still very, very active.
And very present then.
Very present, yeah.
Okay.
It's not the sense of what we typically hear, like, oh, nothing was happening. Oh, no. It's like a lot is happening.
And God was in the middle of it.
God's in the middle of it.
And God's in the middle of it.
Right.
Awesome.
So it's like there's no break.
Okay. So then, how is understanding the Second Temple period, or the 400 years of silence, how does it help us better understand the Gospels?
Oh boy, sort of what we've been talking about. It really sets the social milieu, the whole social setting of what Jesus is doing, his followers, expectations about a Messiah, what they're actually expecting, and how he fits or doesn't fit in it. We see a lot of theological development. From the Hebrew Bible, the God of Israel does everything, good and bad. He's like a capricious deity. By the time we get to the New Testament, he's almost a little bit distant. But we know he's a good deity, but now all of a sudden, evil can be explained with all of these evil spirits. So you get a really big expansion of the cosmology during the Second Temple period. So
when you say cosmology, help us.
So we get an expansion of what kind of entities exist.
Okay.
And this battle between Yahweh and these other spirits, whether they're rogue angels, evil spirits, etc. So before in the Hebrew Bible, we don't really have that. You get the mention of a serpent. Satan in Job still seems to be under control. He's just doing his thing. But evil spirits are sent by Yahweh.
Okay.
We don't get these rogue spirits that are responsible for, the kind that Jesus has to exorcise.
Okay.
We don't see that sort of thing. But by the time of the Second Temple period, all of that's expanding.
Okay. So how does that impact the message of Jesus and the mission of Jesus?
Oh, this goes back to the day of the Lord. So now Jesus' message, the coming of the kingdom, day of the Lord, expectation of salvation, all of this is developing in that Second Temple period, because before in the Hebrew Bible, the expectation was simply you live and you receive all your blessings while you are alive.
So,
and then when you die, you simply go to Sheol and exist as a shade, which is neither good nor bad. But the promises were for the living.
Okay, so the afterlife was not of great significance in that regard.
No.
It was the life that you live right now and presently, and how you live that life.
Exactly. So how your adherence to the Torah and that sort of thing governed your blessings and everything. So now with the Second Temple period, once they are exiled and all of those covenants are broken, now the question is, wait a minute, how do we get the blessings?
Okay.
Because you're alive, but now you're dispersed. And you can't do the things that you're supposed to be doing. You can't do the sacrifices and offerings at the temple. Can't cover sins. So now the question is, hey, we're out here sometimes in persecution, and they're not receiving the promises. So if you don't receive the promises while you're alive, you have to develop a new theology that says it's not while we're alive, it must be after.
So are we beginning to hear a theology of the oppressed developing?
Exactly.
Is that what we're beginning to hear?
Exactly. They're under oppression. And the point is, we will die for the faith in these foreign lands. We're going to resist the oppressor. And God, or Yahweh, we expect that we'll be rewarded on the other side, since we're not getting the reward here.
Okay.
So that becomes part of the development of ideas.
Okay. And that, I think you said the development of theologies.
Yes, yeah. And again, everyone doesn't believe this, but that's one of the beliefs when you say, well, how does this impact someone like the message of Jesus of Nazareth? His understanding, or at least the understanding that's presented, is, hey, there's going to come a time, day of the Lord, judgment of the wicked, restoration of the kingdom, and eternal life for those who hold fast, who endure to the end, and don't give up their faith. Okay. Now, this is very similar to what we're hearing in the Second Temple period for those that are subscribing to that.
Okay.
So the salvation, I think you raised it, salvation from what? From Yahweh's wrath. That's what they're saved from.
And Yahweh's wrath being?
Executing judgment, well, let's say punishment of the wicked, whether it's, lake of fire or something like that. They've got all different ways to imagine the punishment. But yeah, you're saved from his wrath.
Okay. To do what?
To presumably, you got two things. One, you can live in the kingdom physically on the earth. That's one idea. Then they develop an idea where it's like, okay, some could be on the earth, or some could perhaps be in like a paradise or something like that. We see this with Thessalonians and them being caught up in the air, or the thief on the cross, Jesus saying, today you'll be with me in paradise. These are interesting ideas that they're developing. Sometimes the kingdom is thought of as cosmic, but oftentimes it's thought of as a restoration of the physical kingdom.
Okay. With that, there were a lot of conflicts.
Oh, yeah.
By the time that we get to the New Testament, we transfer, we have all of these ideas that were developing during the Second Temple period, because we understand it was anything but silent.
Right.
All right. Lots of thoughts going on, lots of ideas being developed, lots of thinking, lots of sects, denominations developing and coming up with different belief systems.
Yes. Different interpretations of the Torah.
Okay. Is that part of the reason that we see so many conflicts by the time we get to the New Testament and the birth of Jesus, the Christ? Does it have to do with, is that fair?
Definitely disagreements. But we don't really see disagreements to the point of any kind of persecution, the kind of thing that we see later in Acts with Paul persecuting the sect of the way. Like, we don't really see a lot of that. It's typically okay to have different beliefs, and different approaches to the Torah, not to the point of any kind of physical, killing or persecution.
That becomes
or anything.
that kind of violence.
Right. But disagreements were pretty normal.
But it was those disagreements that led to the death of Jesus, was it not?
With Jesus, it seems, at least the way that it's shown in the Gospels, is he's setting himself up as a messianic figure, a rival to the emperor. Because if he's talking about bringing his own kingdom, that means you're not in line with the Roman emperor.
Okay.
So that's a type of insurrection of sorts. Two, with the Jews, the way that they're presented, he is getting more people to listen to him and his sense of being a messianic figure, and that's not what they want. So the Sadducees are presumably in control of the temple. Pharisees seem to be pretty popular, and now you have Jesus of Nazareth coming in, and crowds are following him and listening to that.
So in those conflicts then, although while during his life, we don't see it on the level, because certainly, Jesus, that was the Jesus movement.
Right.
It was called the Way.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that was the Jesus movement. But while we don't see that, it was certainly the kind of conflict where folk began to desire to see him dead.
Exactly. This became the plan. The plan was, hey, let's create a conspiracy to say that he is not in alignment with Rome.
Okay.
And this is the reason why you get Pilate involved to try to get him crucified, because they couldn't do it themselves.
Okay. So the conflicts on some levels do matter, because it was the conflicts.
Yeah.
Those skirmishes.
But his claim of messiahship is the big one. Now, had he just been teaching something different on Torah praxis, how you keep kosher or something, it likely wouldn't have been the same. But his claim of Messiah, that's bigger. That's much bigger.
But does the setting up of the different sects, does understanding all that transpired during that Second Temple period, i.e. 400 years of silence, does that help us better understand?
Oh, definitely.
The conflicts. Yeah. And what would be, in your estimation, and maybe I'm hearing it already, the conflicts that were crucial and made a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing it was more than just healing of a withered hand.
Exactly.
It was more than the brother at the pool of Bethsaida, right? It was. So, was the death of Jesus political, or was it something religious?
Probably both, because for at least the way that it's presented, the Sadducees again are in control. Here's a big point: they don't believe in an afterlife. Okay. So for them, it's good now. They're in control.
It benefits. It benefits them. He's out the way.
Hey, they're in control.
Our leadership is cool.
Our leadership's cool. Rome's good with us. We do things like this, we're good. Jesus comes and upsets the apple cart. Okay. Because he's claiming to be a rival king. His accusation is he claimed to be king of the Jews. Okay? And he's claiming to bring some other kingdom, some sort of cosmic kingdom, which would make all the other kingdoms subservient to him. And if you have people that are following all of that, now you start to get mobs and different things. Yeah. So they're saying, hey, this guy is a problem. He'll get us all killed. Okay. Because Rome doesn't play. So you need him either out of the way or under control. And apparently their sense was, we need him out of the way.
So That was politically.
Yeah.
What's the spiritually, religiously?
So the religious part would be, if he's claiming to be the Messiah, that is part of the religion. Okay. So if he's claiming to be the king
one
of
with
Israel,
God and okay.
He's the king. If he's saying he's the king of Israel, that's fulfilling these scriptural passages, born of a virgin, coming to set the captives free, and this sort of thing. That's part of the belief that some of the Jews had. Okay. So some, not the Sadducees, but others.
So that's as we see him grow, right? Mm-hmm. coming into adulthood.
Yeah.
I guess we don't really see a whole lot because there's not a whole lot given
yeah.
in actuality. But why so much division, and why so much strife religiously, spiritually at his birth?
Yeah, with Herod, again, based on the story, the issue would be Herod is king of Judea. And in the story, the point is, hey, we've got this child that's coming, portents, etc., and he's supposed to be the new king. He's going to be the savior of Israel. So you're set up with another rival. So it's supposed to be Herod. It's his kingdom. He's appointed by Rome. He's an Idumean. He's not a Jew. Now you've got this character. If people rally around him, why are they rallying around you? So you have opposition.
Okay, even at his birth, he becomes a threat.
He's a threat. I mean, if we can believe the reports, Herod is so worried that he has his children or his brothers killed, members of his family murdered, just at the thought that they might try to take over. Okay, so
that's fear of losing power.
Exactly. Yeah, so this is back to the whole idea of political. So yeah, I mean, whoever's in power, you don't want this, even though you'd say, well, he's just a baby. By the time he's old enough,
you ought to be dead.
But,
offsprings and still power perpetuates power.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had a bad question, and my bad question was why might God allow such a long time, period without recorded prophecy? But from what you're saying is that he didn't wait.
I mean, if a person holds these writings to have any weight, and apparently communities did in the ancient world. I mean, they circulated, they were used. So.
And maybe that's a question for someone else. My thought went to why don't we see them as authoritative?
Yeah. That's definitely a nice complex one because it happens over time. It's not a quick thing. Whether it's the Apocrypha, some of the pseudepigrapha, First Enoch, all of this. This is a really good one. Just to what you were saying, hey, wait a minute, how come prophecy, why was there so much time between and this sort of thing? First Enoch is a writing that's recording a prophecy of Enoch. It's saying that Enoch prophesied about a certain thing when he's given his tour of the heavens and all this, and that's during the Second Temple period, even though it's reflecting back on Enoch at the earlier times in Genesis. But you have things like that are showing up. But yeah, these writings, some of them are being used. Some of the church fathers use them. So yeah, I mean, what they're reading is really, really intriguing. Our letter to Titus includes a quotation from First Enoch. That's used in that's the pseudepigraphal text. So it's letting you know that, hey, they're reading, even if they don't have the text exactly like we have it, these are traditions that circulated.
Okay, so perhaps if we knew some of that literature, if we knew some of those writings, we could pick some of it out in the text that we have now as authoritative canon, the Bible.
Yeah, There are traditions in the New Testament, like the angels who are kept in chains in Tartarus in 2 Peter's letter. Okay, so wait a minute. Angels kept in chains in Tartarus. What in the world is going on here? Well, that's nonsensical without a writing like First Enoch that explains how the angels end up in chains in darkness and that sort of thing. So these traditions show up in these other writings.
We're just unaware.
General Christian traditions with, let's say, the 66 books. Yeah, why would they're not included in that. So, yeah, we would have to say, well, the big question is, what were early Christians and Jews reading? And these writings that we have in the New Testament show us, oh, they knew other traditions.
Okay, so then you hit one. We're talking about early Christians and understanding first century.
Yeah.
At the point, it was much further out after the death of Jesus.
Right.
That name stuck to a group of Jews who had been Jewish,
Right.
but became followers of the way,
Right.
followers of Jesus, doing their thing.
Yeah.
And as they were doing their thing, I believe the term was not meant to be complimentary initially.
Right, for Christians, right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was thrown out and received probably.
Yeah. It went from a pejorative type of term to all of a sudden something, like you said, that sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was the thought of the early church in its inception and as it began to develop? Where we saw it, at one point predominantly Jewish.
Yeah.
As time progressed and Paul begins to, we see the Jewish aspects diminish. What were the early thoughts of the Christian church, and how did these documents play into that?
Yeah, the documents like the pseudepigrapha and apocrypha. So some of these early groups, again, they often are not naming them. So here's a big issue that we have, even with the Hebrew Bible. Now, we get quotations.
Okay.
So let me just use Jesus in his temptation. Things like, man shall not live by bread alone, but from every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God, something like that. Okay, we have that quotation, but we don't always know what did they call that writing. So, okay, we've got the quotation, but what was the name of it? So often we just get divisions. Jesus will say, you know what is written about me in the law, the prophets, and the Psalms. But which writings, though?
Okay, and because he was familiar with all of it, perhaps, being a devout Jew, studying and knowing the difference between the sects, that his knowledge was far greater than just the books that were presented, because some of these are also writings that became part of the Jewish community, regardless of the divisions.
Yeah.
So he would have studied. He would have,
we can't go so far as to say, oh, we know for sure that he would have read First Enoch. We simply don't have enough evidence to say it. But the understanding is there were more writings circulating. We see that from the Qumran scrolls. We see that from the Apocrypha. We see all these other writings that were not in the Hebrew Bible. But all of a sudden, we see these texts that are carrying Jewish tradition and this sort of thing. We see in Qumran more psalms. Septuagint has an additional psalm. Longer endings to Job and all of this. So what were they reading? What were the limits, if they had limits, to their canon? Because they don't have the same notion of canon like we do.
Okay, all right. So the great thing is maybe in a few weeks or so we'll hear more. We have Dr. Hopkins, right?
Oh, yeah.
coming, and we're going to talk about the canon.
Oh, good.
And the development of canon. So
For sure.
maybe he'll have some answers.
Yeah,
that
especially with the background with the Qumran scrolls and that kind of library and how diverse that is compared to other things that we see.
And how did we? Okay, great. That's not a conversation, right? How did the book selected get chosen?
Yeah, that'll be a fantastic conversation.
And that becomes another piece of it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. In your opinion, what's perhaps the biggest misconception that people have about the second temple period, or the 400 silent years?
Biggest misconception would be that it does not matter for the New Testament. Like, some look at it as, oh, that's some sort of weird version of Judaism that doesn't really contribute or is not really necessary for understanding Jesus and the message of the New Testament. So they miss all of this development of ideas. They miss the theological development. They miss how Jesus of Nazareth fits in line with some of that development. Okay. So I think for sure that's probably the biggest misconception, that who needs the pseudepigrapha, apocrypha, Qumran scrolls, or anything from that period? Hence, silent years. Don't really need it. We can go from the Hebrew Bible straight to the New Testament.
Okay, and that's... Okay, my last question, right?
Okay.
Is what should modern readers understand before jumping from Malachi to Matthew?
What they should understand is there is tremendous value in terms of making sense of the message of the New Testament, the expectations of messianism, day of the Lord, salvation, Christian hope, and a ton of narrative kinds of parallels where you have figures who are martyred, who are trying to live holy and righteous for God, that look very similar to what we see in the New Testament, and help to continue the tradition of faithfulness from the Hebrew Bible into the New Testament. And it specifically helps with why people were so hopeful and expectant by the time of the New Testament, because we had all these figures like that in the Second Temple period. Yeah.
So sounds almost as if we really, really, really want to understand the message of Jesus, in some ways the who-ness of Jesus, we really got to know what happened beyond the closing of Malachi.
Yeah.
That we've really got to understand what happened in those 400 years before we see Jesus coming on the scene.
It helps, you said it perfectly, and it helps so much with understanding the urgency. So you go, again, like you say, you go from Malachi to Matthew. It's like, whoa, what's all this urgency and expectation of Messiah? Well, you get it from this period here. Here's what the situation is. The situation has built up.
Okay. And so you would really understand better the world he's being born into, and
absolutely.
What's happening at that time and why it's happening.
And why.
I mean, we get Jesus born, right?
Yeah.
In the first chapter. And by the time you get to the second chapter, all the babies are trying to be killed.
Right, exactly.
What's going on here? And that understanding can happen when you understand some of what's going on in those 400 silent years that really weren't silent at all.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting, sir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a tremendous field. Tremendous field.
And sounds like so much that would help make us better?
I think so. Certainly with understanding, answers a lot of questions. A lot of things where we may have gaps in our understanding and history. That period and those writings help to fill in a number of those gaps.
So if someone wanted to fill in those gaps, because reading is one thing,
Yeah.
understanding is another.
Yeah.
You don't always need a teacher to learn, but a teacher is helpful when it comes to understanding as you're going through the process, to help with clarity,
Right.
to help bridge some of the pieces,
Yeah.
right? So then where would one go if we're not teaching it in our churches? Where would one go
Yeah.
to be able to develop that understanding
Yeah.
that in turn helps them to better understand
Yeah.
this faith that they are engaging in and practicing,
Oh yeah.
which is based on Jesus the Christ?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Perfect question. If a person's not looking to go to seminary and learn from a class on Second Temple Judaism or something like that, or in my New Testament classes, I get to cover all of this. So if a person's not doing that, then we've got some great practical tools. One, any great study Bible is going to have the essays that cover this period, that talk about here's what was going on during the Second Temple period, the development of Babylon, Persia, the Greek or Macedonian Empire. All of that's right there in great study Bibles that cover this kind of history. There are also great essays in those types of Bibles that walk through the development of these texts. So the Apocrypha, Pseudepigrapha, Qumran scrolls. So if a person just said, hey, I want to get an introduction to all of this, it's right there in really good sources.
So the key then is, as you get these fantastic study Bibles, don't get them and just study the material that's familiar to you.
Exactly.
Don't get them and just study the 66 books that you've been taught about.
Yeah.
Take your time and go in and do the study about the stuff that you haven't heard about, that seem foreign and perhaps makes you wonder, why is this here?
Right.
It's there for a purpose.
Right.
And if you dig into it, perhaps you'll understand.
Yes.
And if they don't understand it, they can call
Then
Dr.
they can
Rodney
come take
Caruthers.
a class. They can come take a class.
They come take a class.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Insightful, Doc.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love it.
Insightful.
Oh, yeah.
Insightful. I'm going to add needed.
Yeah.
Needed. We engage too often without fully understanding. And sometimes just because we maybe don't know.
That's right.
And there's something to be said that we don't know what we don't know.
Yes. That's right.
But I pray that on this evening, that there's some folk who now know.
Yes.
Or at least have been informed.
Yeah. Peak interest.
Peak interest.
Yeah.
That peak interest that will cause them to what's up with that?
Yes. That's right.
What's up with that?
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And maybe even begin to dig in just a little bit deeper.
That's right. Yeah.
I appreciate you, man.
Oh, listen, it's always a pleasure.
Appreciate you coming back.
Yeah.
And I can be like the mosquito gnat that gets under your skin. Say, hey, man, I need you to come back again, okay?
Oh, listen,
so
it's a pleasure.
I'm sure I will be dialing your number.
Yeah.
And if I don't dial your number, I have to tell students sometimes, I do know how to text.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
I'll text you and see if we can get in touch and get you back. There's so much more for us to learn.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And to those who are viewing on this evening, I pray that something has been said on this evening that has been of benefit to you. I pray that on this evening that the doctor Rodney Caruthers II has sparked an interest that has touched something within that makes you ask the question, what's up with that? And don't stop with asking the question, that it will move you to begin to dig in and seek a better understanding. For we all ought to truly know in depth this faith that we talk about and that we seek to practice. Hope that you'll join us in our next episode. Again, you don't want to miss it, because we want to keep you thinking. We want to keep a stirring going on in your mind so that every time you turn us on, you're going to be asking, what's up with that? Until next time, be blessed.